Hi everybody, this is Rose of Sharon and I'm back again with another book review. I just recently picked up Dark Agenda, The War to Destroy Christian America, written by none other than David Horowitz. And if you know anything about David Horowitz, he's written countless bestsellers. This one is extremely short. And I actually underlined quite a few things in it because I thought they were very important. And it's a quick read, but despite the fact that it's a very quick read, it's also very informational, and it's something that I've known has been happening for quite a long time, but it's just come to me through things like The Scariest Movie Ever, the YouTuber who is brave enough to actually do that. There's one YouTuber I really like called Marquis who discusses what's going on with Venezuela, and it's exceedingly disturbing, but yeah, I'm not going to be asleep to any of this. I don't care who hears me, I don't care who shuts me up, because I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore, even though I'm behind a camera, but I'm not afraid. I know who's on my side. But another wonderful, Glop of Truth is also another excellent truther I enjoy. Of course, I love A Call for Uprising. He's sensational. But I actually recommended this to him. I don't know if I recommended it to Glop or Scariest Movie or Marquis, but I should have. I haven't really watched any videos from any of those YouTubers except for Scariest Movie Ever. But this is something that's been happening very recently within the scope of synagogues and churches. The most recent example is a Christian who went into a synagogue and started wailing on it with a shotgun. I don't know if it's shotgun, AK-47. I don't know what the heck it was. Just extremely tragic. But personally, and I know this is going to get me flamed, but I like to ascribe to a lot of conspiracy theories. So this is one I definitely believe is true, because it's been proven 9 times out of 10. But I feel that the person who did it was a Manchurian candidate. I don't know how he was targeted or when he was targeted, but they honed in on him specifically, despite the fact that he came from a really good upbringing and he had Christian heritage and Christian parenting. They targeted him and they brainwashed him, and then said the magic word, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's a murderer. But yeah, it's probably a little bit more complicated than that, but we've seen how MK mind control works and how easily it can be done. And I know since the time that Josie and the Pussycats was put out, and I know it's a frivolous film, but one of the things about that movie I really enjoy is the fact that one of the characters explains subliminal messaging. I thought, yeah, this is true. And that movie is actually, it's aged exceptionally well. And if you're interested in what I'm talking about, yes, it's a frivolous movie. It's kind of goofy fun. It's not the best, it's not the worst, but watch it for that scene in and of itself. One of the characters who is actually vegetarian, all of a sudden she has a craving for McDonald's, and for her this is completely outrageous and totally out of character for her. So yeah, mind control's nothing new. Get that out of the way. But this book is about just how Christians are being targeted, and we're seeing more and more of it. And of course it talks about the sanctity of marriage and gay rights. I know this is going to get me in trouble. I don't agree with what he says about that. Personally, I think love is love, and marriage shouldn't be limited to that. But I guess the argument of that would be, well, if they have the chance to have their own families, then it'll ruin the institution of marriage, which I don't agree with that. I think that is a very radical statement to make and extremely unfounded. Better two parents of the same sex than no parents at all, is my opinion, but flame me all you want. That was one thing I didn't care for in the book, as it seemed just a little bit... I know what the Bible says about homosexuality. Yes, I do. I don't agree with it, but I'm sorry. And I know a lot of people say, oh, you're going to go to hell. Yeah, I don't think so, because I was baptized when I was 13, so yeah, I'm pretty much covered. My opinion is my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to ascribe to it, but I just don't agree with that with Horowitz's take. But you know, he's going to state it for what it is, and yes, I do admit that he does have some evidence toward the fact of the whole idea of marriage in and of itself is quite strained, but I don't know what the cause of that is. Maybe I'm thinking it all started during the free love movement, but that's probably just a supposition at best. But he moves on to Roe versus Wade, which is something that I know I'm going to get in huge trouble about, as it was another bone of contention with me. I know that abortion is murder, but in certain aspects, I don't think it should be overturned. The only reason I say that is what would you do in the case of rape, or what would you do in the case of a child having a birth defect? I mean, a really bad one. And the body itself will expel a fetus, so why is that any different? And that's the justification, and please forgive me, I'm not a bad person, but this is how I justify things, and my mind is very empirical. But things like this, Roe versus Wade, is not black and white, it has many shades of gray, just like the whole marriage thing. Yes, I agree that abortion is murder. I'm totally in agreement with that. It is. I think it's horrendous, but I don't think it should be something that's outlawed completely, because man, I don't know. It's just a slippery slope. It's a catch-22, and I don't know where to go with that. That's just something I've been wrestling with for the past few days, and I personally wouldn't do it because I choose life, but women should have the right. And of course, the whole thing about contraception, yeah, it's just it's a mess. And he talks about AIDS, and yeah, we're really on to fire. And the big thing that he speaks of here is Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins, whom I both love immensely. Yeah, I'm gonna get into real trouble here, but yeah, on certain points I do actually admire both of them, but I do not agree that Christians are idiots, because that could be further from the truth. That's just a blanket statement lumping all Christians together, and that's a fallacy. Logically, you cannot do this. It's just like saying all apples are red, when clearly that is not true. It's a really terrible fallacy to actually state or make. And of course, Christopher Hitchens was a very complex man, and Horowitz actually had a chance to sit with him when he was dying. He had esophageal cancer, and that's eventually, it was stage 4, and that's what took his life. But he showed himself as being a man that was of sound mind, and he believed in a supreme being. And that's actually more of agnostic point of view than it is atheist. And I have a friend who is an agnostic, although he says he's an atheist, and he states, "Oh, I believe in an all-knowing, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent." But I thought, no, you're agnostic. You're not atheist. If you were an atheist, you would be a theist. You would not, you'd be against all theism. You would be against God. You would be against all that. And he really likes Dawkins as well. And yeah, I'm a Darwinist too. So what of it? I think that Darwinism theory, though it may be, makes a lot of sense. And I feel like God himself put that all together. I'm not just saying it happened out of the blue. No. It doesn't work that way because you carbon date things. Carbon dating actually proves how long something has been there. You take science, you merge it with religion, and there you go. But Craig Braden speaks of this in depth, which is why I adore him. And I ascribe to metaphysics in that matter, and I feel like that's the answer to everything. That's the theory of everything that everybody's looking for. But of course, there are always going to be questions that have no answer. I think only God alone can answer these inquiries. But I've gone all over the place with this book, and rightly so. But it's just scary to me. I want to be able to still be able to pray without having to worry. Are people labeling me? Because I fear, and normally I don't fear anything, but I fear going into an establishment and people picking on me for praying, and I shouldn't feel like I'm under some kind of scrutiny for worshiping God and believing in Jesus. No. I'm going to wave my Christian flag proudly. And yes, my opinions might be a little bit different. Some of them might be a little bit more on the liberal side, but I find myself right in the middle, and I can look at the world in such a way through a lens that will try to decipher meaning behind why things are the way they are. I like to understand how things work. And this didn't happen overnight. This is something that's been going on for a long time. And we all know the people who are responsible. And they're trying to flip the world upside down. But this is a dire warning for all of us. And we have to remain vigilant, despite some of the things that I've said that have been very controversial. I feel it's time for a lot of us to wake up and smell the coffee, as it were. We have to continue to fight the good fight, no matter what. As things are changing, and you can't be politically correct anymore. And as I've stated in past videos, I try my best to be tactful. I try to guard my tongue so I don't say something that might be considered offensive to some. I like to converse in such a way that is intellectual, but you just have to be so cautious nowadays. You just have to watch everything that comes out of your mouth. And I'm going to be truthful. I'm going to be truthful, and I'm going to be frank. And what I can take away from all that is you can either agree or disagree, but we have the liberty to do so. And that's what makes America America. That's what makes it one of the greatest places in the world to live. And I know that sounds really biased, but for all its flaws, America is a fantastic country. Yes, we're still learning, we're taking our baby steps, but we're a country that's in progress. It was a country that was based on Christian values, mostly deist, but anyways, those were values that were based on God. So you gotta have laws, you gotta have rules, or you fall into disrepute and it becomes chaos, it becomes melee, it becomes an anarchy. And yeah, people think, well, the Ten Commandments are archaic. No, these rules are meant to govern us, and God gave us free will and a conscience. And I think that's wonderful that he gave us that compass to let us know, well, maybe I shouldn't do that because I could end up breaking every bone in my body. That's just an example. Like, for instance, if I were, say, I want to go rock climbing, that's just an EG. But this would, if I didn't have the right instructor, if I didn't have the right kind of equipment, this experience would end badly very quickly, and I could end up hurting myself in a number of ways or worse. So I think that the best metaphor I can come up with is the Bible itself is a manual for life. Of course, it's not perfect because it was inspired by God Almighty, but written down by human hands. And scholars have been trying to interpret this thing for years. There are numerous books that were excluded by the Holy Roman Empire that are coming back into view. And actually, I enjoy the hidden texts, the pseudepigrapha, and books that were edited out just because the Pope thought they were too controversial. But I just think that having a more robust understanding of the word is important, and it's not bad to read other texts because I feel that to understand other people's cultures and their methods, their dogmas, their tenets to that said religion make it more comprehensible. And I think, oh, this one is similar. Oh, wait, they're all similar. And you think, C.S. Lewis was right. But anyway, I know I've said that before. But yes, he was absolutely correct. I really don't have that much else to say. I love David Horowitz. I think that he's brilliant. I don't agree with all of his bullet points, but I do agree. I absolutely and unequivocally and massively concur with the fact that, yes, this is a horrendous time for us as Christians, and it's probably prophetic, but it's we have to watch and prepare, as it says in the Bible. Yeah, the Lord can come like a thief in the night. So, yeah, be prepared. Like a good Girl Scout. I love the book. I thought it's one of those books that will chill you, and definitely if you're not awake, unlike some, you'll just think, perhaps it's time that I should share this with other people. And we just have to band. We have to stay strong. We have to band together. We have to continue fighting the good fight for what it is, and realizing that yes, Jesus did not sugarcoat it. He said that we will face persecution in the world. He was sending us out as sheep amongst wolves. He said that to the disciples before he departed. And he warned them. But he did that in such a loving and paternal way, I think, to guide us. And I really have to, I gotta hand it to him. But I really don't have that much else to say about the book, other than I think it must be read by everybody. And I like David for being another truther in a time where it seems like all we get is fake news and you can't trust anybody anymore. You just have to be so skeptical. You have to scrutinize everything so carefully. But despite the fact of it being a very short book, it's definitely an icebreaker, and it's one of those things that I'm sure it will get amongst Christians in and of themselves, and they probably won't agree with everything, but they will come to consensus that this is a time unlike any of our history, and it's probably foretold, but let's keep ourselves strong. Let's remain in prayer. Bind ourselves in and never give up, because we can't. It's too important. Our nation was actually founded by our forefathers who believed in the biblical principles, so we can't just forget that. It's important. That's our heritage. So, like it or lump it, that's the way it is. That's basically all I have to say about Dark Agenda. So until next time, live long, prosper. Ciao, Tootsie.